Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book and this author I am pretty sure everyone has heard of, even if you live under a rock. Even though Colleen Hoover is already such a popular author, she has blown up even bigger because of TikTok, because of Book Talk, and it's because of Book Talk that this book even exists. If you didn't know, It Starts With Us is the sequel to It Ends With Us, and this is a sequel that has come out 6 years after the first book. Honestly, I don't think this was ever supposed to be written. It was definitely more like a fan service type of sequel, but it's here, it's finally out, and I read it. Honestly, going into this one, I was a little nervous. I had no idea what to expect. It Ends With Us was such a powerful and moving book, so it's gonna take a lot to follow up with that. Just a heads up, I might end up spoiling some things from It Ends With Us just because it'll be hard to talk about the sequel without talking about this first book. And yes, you absolutely need to read It Ends With Us before starting It Starts With Us. I've already seen some people read It Starts With Us first, which is crazy to me because there is this little note from Colleen Hoover that tells you to read It Ends With Us first. So I am curious if it would even be as enjoyable if you haven't read the first book and gotten all that context. Before I get into the actual content of this book, I want to talk about the book itself, like the physical book itself. I gotta be honest, I am very disappointed with how plain the paperback is. This is a normal paperback that I ordered off of Amazon because I wanted to get it on release day, and it's just a plain, flat, glossy cover. There's no sort of embossing, nothing really special about it, which I feel like is mostly because the publisher wanted to pump out as many copies of this book as they could, which does make sense because I saw somewhere that It Starts With Us sold about 800,000 copies on release day, which is insane. It sold almost 1 million copies. I'm sure by now it's been almost a week that it's already passed that million mark, but I'm a little sad that compared to all of Colleen Hoover's other paperbacks, it's very, very plain. Like It Ends With Us, it's got some embossing with the flower petals. You can feel that texture. The book itself is not glossy, but you can see some of the shine on the title and the author. And all of her other books that are published with Atria feel nice like that, except for It Starts With Us, which is very, very disappointing because it's not like the publisher couldn't afford it. Colleen Hoover has made Atria so much freaking money. I'm pretty sure Colleen Hoover has outsold the Bible at one point, and she's constantly on the New York Times bestseller list with multiple titles as well. So I just really wish that the publisher did something a little bit fancier with the paperback, but I am glad that I pre-ordered the special edition hardcover of this book from Waterstones. My copy has finally shipped and it's landed in the US from the UK. It's this nice hardcover with pretty sprayed edges that reflect the same water on the cover. I'm really excited to have that in my hands because this sequel, after all this hype, it definitely deserved something a little bit fancier than this. But anyway, for my thoughts for the sequel, this much awaited sequel, I surprisingly did not love it. I am very disappointed that I didn't. I definitely did not enjoy it as much as It Ends With Us, which I gave 4 stars to. You might be surprised by that rating. I didn't give it 5 stars, but that was mostly because I did not like the first half of this book, and that really dampened how much I loved It Ends With Us. But I will say, this is definitely the must-read from Colleen Hoover. Even though it's not my top favorite, I will always recommend it. It's a very powerful story about abuse, domestic abuse, and breaking that cycle of abuse. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't all that happy with the ending of It Ends With Us because I am a romance reader and I need that happily ever after, and we never really got it between Atlas and Lily. This book ended on the possibility of a future for them, and we finally do get that future in this sequel. Sadly though, I just wasn't quite what I was hoping for Atlas and Lily's romance. I'm very happy for them. I'm very happy that they got their happily ever after, but reading this one was a little boring. There wasn't really anything that made this book stand out, and honestly I feel like this book, the story could have been a lot stronger if it was just some sort of bonus novella. It actually reminded me a lot of Maybe Now, which is another sequel that Colleen Hoover wrote for Maybe Someday. That book really felt unnecessary, and I almost feel the same way with It Starts With Us. I wouldn't say this book is completely unnecessary, but it did feel like a very long and dragged out epilogue for It Ends With Us. Before going into this one, I decided not to do a reread of It Ends With Us. Yes, it has been 6 years since I read it, and I definitely forgot a lot of stuff that happened, but surprisingly, when I read It Starts With Us, a lot of the story came back to me, and it really didn't feel like there was this 6-year gap between the two books. So whether you read It Ends With Us 6 years ago, back in 2016 when it first released, or you read it literally yesterday and immediately picked up It Starts With Us. The great thing about Colleen Hoover and her writing is that she really sucks you back in to her stories and her worlds. So I had no problem having not reread It Ends With Us and just diving into It Starts With Us as soon as it came out. And I was very excited to see that we were getting both Lily and Alice's point of views, because we never got Alice's in the first book. But the book itself is about Lily learning to be a co-parent with Ryle, who is her ex-husband and her former abuser, and she's learning to create and set that boundary between him being the father of her child and him also being the man who hurt her very, very badly. And of course, there's the thing that most people want with the sequel, which is Lily and Alice's romance. It literally picks up right where It Ends With Us left off, like that moment where Lily and Alice see each other after, what, a year apart? These two have been a long time coming since they first fell in love as teenagers, and now they are all grown up. Lily is a single mom. She owns a flower shop, and Alice is a chef. He owns several restaurants, and these two know that they're it for each other. They're meant for each other, but in this newly reformed relationship, they have to navigate around the scar that is Ryle, and Ryle does not make it easy for them, which is realistic, but at the same time, I got a little bit tired of reading how Ryle was just constantly being such a nuisance to this relationship, and that kind of bled into me just not loving Lily and Alice's romance, this new romance anymore. I mean, it's sweet and all, they go on dates together, but it just didn't wow me or anything. I wasn't falling head over heels in love with Alice, even though I really wanted to, but he is a very, very nice guy. He is absolutely perfect for Lily, and I appreciated him and all his kind and patient ways, but I just didn't fall in love with him. I probably loved him more in It Ends With Us than in It Starts With Us, and he got less page time in that one. So the story, the romance was underwhelming. It didn't do much for me, though maybe it would have made a difference if I had immediately read the sequel right after reading or rereading the first book, because then you would still be feeling that high from the end of It Ends With Us. And if this tells you anything, my favorite part about It Starts With Us is Theo, the 12-year-old therapist. Theo is the son of one of Alice's friends, one of his employees, and he is hilarious. He added some great comedic relief to the book. It got a little meta and also very funny with how Theo made fun of Alice for what he said at the end of It Ends With Us, because Alice says, "You can stop swimming now, Lily. We finally reached the shore." And Theo would make fun of that because it's like, what does that even mean? It's not actually a line from Finding Nemo. And I did love that the last line in It Starts With Us is also fish related. This last line was also from Theo, and it genuinely made me crack up when I read it. So Theo, he was my favorite character in this book, and he was literally the 12-year-old therapist for Atlas. And I actually really liked the whole storyline with Josh as well. He is a new character who is introduced. I won't say exactly how, but I did really like that plot line. It made the book a lot more interesting, and it also made us see another side to Alice that we never really got to see. So overall, the sequel, it was okay. I wouldn't say you absolutely have to read it after reading It Ends With Us, but if you have time, you could. So my final rating for this book, it's a 3-star read. It's very middle of the ground, not my favorite Colleen Hoover book, not the worst one either. I just had higher expectations for it that it didn't really meet. I just didn't love it as much as It Ends With Us. It didn't pack the punch that I was expecting, but it wasn't bad. I mean, anytime I read Colleen Hoover, I usually enjoy myself because I love her writing, and her writing is still solid in the sequel. But I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts about it. I feel like it's been mixed with all the reviews for it, at least from what I've seen. I would love to know though if anyone ended up rereading this one or just dove in like I did. I'd love to see if maybe it would have made a difference if I had reread It Ends With Us. But that's about it for this review. I wasn't blown away, I didn't hate it, so I don't have that much to say about it. It's always hard for me to review 3-star reads because I never have as much to say compared to, you know, a 5-star read or a 1-star read. But again, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!